Learn English through Stories G17 PDF. Adapted and modified by Kulwant Singh Sandhu. Contents: 1. Housewife. 2. The value of games and sports. 3. Grammar page, have or have got. 1. Housewife by Rabindranath Tagore. When we were 2 years or so below the scholarship class, our teacher was Shibanath. He was clean-shaven, with closely cropped hair except for a short pigtail. The very sight of him scared boys out of their wits. In the animal world, creatures that sting do not bite. Our teacher did both. His blows and slaps were like hailstones pounding saplings, and his sarcasm, too, burnt us to the core. He complained that the relationship between pupils and teacher was not what it was in times past. That pupils no longer revered their teacher like a god. Then he would hurl his power down onto our heads like a slighted god, roaring thunderously. But his roaring was mixed with so many coarse words that no one could have taken it for a thunderbolt. His ordinary Bengali appearance, too, belied the noise he made, so no one confused this god of the second stream of the third year with Indra, Chandra, Varuna, or Kartik. There was only one god like him: Yama, god of death. And after all these years, there is no harm in admitting that we often wished he would go, there and then, to Yama's home. But clearly no god can be more malevolent than a man-god. The immortal gods cause nowhere near so much trouble. If we pick a flower and offer it to them, they are pleased. But they do not harass us if we don't offer it. Human gods demand far more. If we fall the slightest bit short, they swoop, red-eyed with fury, not at all godlike to look at. Our teacher had a weapon for torturing boys that sounds trivial, but which was actually terribly cruel. He would give us new names. Although a name is nothing but a word, people generally love their names more than their own selves. They will go to tremendous lengths to further their names. They are willing to die for them. If you distort a man's name, you strike at something more precious than life itself. Even if you change someone's ugly name to a pretty one, Lord of Ghosts say to Lotus Lover, it's unbearable. From this we derive a principle: that the abstract is worth more to us than the material. Fees to the goldsmith seem dearer than gold, honor means more than life, one's name more than one's self. Because of this deep law of human nature, Shashashakar, Moon Crown, was intensely distressed when Shibanath gave him the name Bataki, flat fish. His misery was doubled by the knowledge that the name was precisely pointed at his looks. Yet all he could do was sit quietly and suffer silently. Ashu was given the name Ginny, housewife, but there was a story behind this. Ashu was the goody-goody of the class. He never complained to anyone. He was very shy. Maybe he was younger than the others. He smiled gently at anything that was said to him. He studied hard. Many were keen to make friends with him, but he never played with any other boy, and as soon as we were released from class he would go straight home. At 1 o'clock every day a servant girl would bring him a few sweets wrapped up in a leaf and a little bell-metal pot of water. Ashu was very embarrassed by this. He could not wait for her to go home again. He did not want his classmates to think of him as anything more than a schoolboy. The people at home, his parents, brothers and sisters, everything about them was very much a private matter, which he did his utmost to conceal from the boys at school. So far as his studies were concerned, he could not be faulted in any way, but every now and then he was late to school and could give no good answer when Shibanath questioned him. His disgrace on these occasions was appalling. The teacher made him stand by the steps to the building, bent double with his hands on his knees. His misery and shame were thus displayed to 4 whole classes of boys. A day's holiday came, to mark an eclipse. The next day Shibanath took his place on his stool as usual, and, looking towards the door, saw Ashu entering the class with his slate and school books wrapped in an ink-stained cloth. He was even more hesitant than usual. "Here comes the housewife," said Shibanath, laughing dryly. Later, when the class was over, just before he dismissed the boys, he called out, "Listen to this, everyone." It was as if the whole of Earth's gravity were dragging young Ashu down, but all he could do was sit with his legs and the end of his dhoti dangling down from the bench, while all the boys stared at him. There were many years to come in Ashu's life, many days of joy, sorrow, and shame more significant than this, but none could compare with what his young heart suffered on this occasion. Yet the background to it was very ordinary, and can be explained in a very few words. Ashu had a little sister. She had no friend or cousin of her own age, so Ashu was her only playmate. Ashu's home had a covered porch, with a gate and railings in front. The holiday had been cloudy and very wet. The few people who continued to pass by, shoes in their hands, umbrellas over their heads, were in too much of a hurry to look round. Ashu played all day with his sister, seated on the steps of the porch, while clouds darkened the sky and the rain pattered. It was the wedding day of his sister's doll. Ashu was giving solemn and scrupulous instructions to his sister about the preparations for the wedding. A problem then arose about who would be the priest. The little girl suddenly jumped up, and Ashu heard her ask someone, "Please, will you be the priest at my doll's wedding?" Turning round, he saw a bedraggled Shibanath standing under the porch, folding his wet umbrella. He had been walking along the road and had taken shelter from the rain there. It was Shibanath whom the little girl had asked to be priest at her doll's wedding. Ashu dashed straight into the house when he saw him, abandoning the game and his sister. His holiday had been utterly ruined. This was what Shibanath described with withering amusement the following day, to account for his calling Ashu housewife in front of everyone. At first the boy smiled gently, as he did to everything he heard, and tried to join in a little with the merriment all around him. But then 1 o'clock struck, the classes were dismissed. The servant girl from home was standing at the gate, with 2 sweets and a sal leaf and some water in a shining bell-metal pot. And Ashu's smile gave way to a deep red blush around his face and ears. The veins in his aching forehead began to throb. He could no longer hold back the flood of tears in his eyes. Shibanath took a light meal in his rest room and settled down for a smoke. The boys danced round Ashu boisterously chanting, "Housewife, housewife." He realized that to play with your little sister on a school holiday was the most shameful thing in the world, and he could not believe that people would ever forget what he had done. Vocabulary. 1. Sarcasm, hurting comments. Sarcasm is the lowest form of wit. 2. To the core, very much. 3. Slighted, insulted. 4. Thunderbolt, shock. 5. Belied, gave a false impression. 6. Malevolent, unkind. 7. Swoop, pounce. 8. Conceal, hide. 8. Scrupulous, careful. 9. Bedraggled, wet and untidy. 2. The value of games and sports. We all are familiar with the maxim, health is wealth. According to the World Health Organization, health is a state of complete physical, mental, social as well as spiritual well-being of an individual, and not merely the absence of disease. Academics serve the purpose of nourishing the mind. But a healthy mind resides in a healthy body. One can develop and maintain a healthy body by actively participating in games and sports. Recreation, particularly sports, is still a far thing for the people of India, for they believe more in earning money and amassing wealth for the future generation. Games and sports, therefore, remain neglected from their day-to-day lives. They, in fact, consider them as unnecessary and as mere wastage of time. The moment a child opens their mouth to express a desire to go to play, the parents or the elders snub them with the refrain that their examination is at hand, or they had not done well in the previous examination. This mindset is, to a considerable extent, responsible for the reluctance of children towards sports and games. The one who has not played any game in their childhood can hardly develop an interest for the same in the latter part of their life. This vicious cycle continues. But things have begun to change for the better. Games keep our body alert, active, youthful, and energetic. They instill in us a spirit of adventure. Games increase the circulation of blood, boost metabolism, burn calories, and improve the respiratory and digestive system. A healthy person can work hard cheerfully for a longer period of time and can face dangers boldly. Games also instill in the players the spirit of self-reliance, self-confidence, justice, and fair play. They enable them to cultivate virtues like discipline, honesty, integrity, loyalty, and patriotism. While playing games, various muscles of the body get exercised, and one need not join a gymnasium for this purpose. Brisk walking, running, cycling, skipping, swimming, and yoga are common activities to keep oneself fit. They also tone up the body of both the young and the old. Mild exercises are beneficial for patients recovering from heart attack and those who suffer from obesity, diabetes, blood pressure, etc. Exercise invigorates the mind and the body and helps to keep one fit. Games are an excellent means of recreation. Soccer, cricket, grass tennis, or wrestling are watched by millions of fans all over the world. When we watch and play games, we forget all our worries and anxieties. They enable us to divert our mind from negative thoughts. A sports person develops team spirit, learns to adjust with other person's shortcomings, and respects and follows the rules of the game he/she plays. Sportspersons display punctuality, diplomacy, and self-discipline. Sports build in us the confidence to face the challenges of life and not be deterred by failures, which are the stepping stones to success. Such an approach would help one reorganize one's skill after any setback and work harder with renewed vigor to achieve one's goal. Games generate a feeling of sportsmanship and broaden one's outlook. They are very essential for students. In our schools, however, games and sports are not given much importance. A period of half an hour or 45 minutes once or twice a week is all that is given to sports or games. Children find it difficult to pursue a sport of their liking in the specified period. Some schools cannot afford funds for sports equipment, while most schools do not have a playground. Many schools do not employ any physical instructor to guide the children in various sports. Even parents want their children to complete their home assignments after school hours, rather than go outdoors to play games. They fail to realize that games make children strong, both mentally and physically. Many school children become obese due to lack of participation in games. Obesity puts them in the high-risk category of contracting diseases like diabetes, heart ailments, etc. The education system needs to be reformed to ensure that equal importance is given to sports and games. There is hardly anyone in the present era who is unfamiliar with the advantages of playing games, yet the majority of the adult population in India never opts for going to play games. It is the students or the children who are found to be playing different sort of games. They too go to play against the will of their respective parents. Fortunately, with the advent of IPL cricket followed gradually by similar leagues in other sports like football, hockey, tennis, wrestling, kabaddi, etc., that have all been seen to bring in good moves for the players, sports as a means of livelihood is beginning to find favor with quite a few people. Games and sports not only strengthen the bones and muscles of the body, but also accelerate blood circulation, raising the rate of metabolism and respiration. In short, games and sports are an integral part of life, and those who tend to ignore this compromise their health. The apathy of the general public and authorities for sports and games is evident from our country's poor performance in international sports events. In Beijing Olympics, India's best ever performance of winning 1 gold and 2 bronze medals was lauded as a historic breakthrough for the country. India then followed it up with a tally of 6 medals at the London Olympics. However, it is grossly disappointing to see that even players from small countries like South Korea, Romania, etc., are able to win a far larger number of medals. India is far behind other countries in a number of games. Moreover, in the absence of funds and facilities, the players are unable to utilize their talent and energy in a productive manner. For example, hockey is mostly played on grass courts in India, even as the entire world has adopted the AstroTurf. There is also a lack of training of international standard. The players lack motivation to excel in the absence of awards and incentives. They are unaware of the diet they should follow to keep themselves fit. Cricket is the only game which is given importance. But accusations of match fixing, faulty selection procedures, and misappropriation of funds have dented the image of cricket in India. Sports no doubt have plenty of advantages, but they also have drawbacks. Some sportsmen fracture or lose their limbs or get permanently disabled while playing games. Many students take too much interest in games and ignore their studies. The unprecedented flow of money into some sports, mainly cricket, has given rise to corrupt practices like rigged elections and match fixing. The government formulated a national sports policy in 2001. It promotes the popularity of sports among public at large. It aims at the development of infrastructure and the provision of better coaching facilities. The National Welfare Fund for Sportspersons was set up in March 1982 with a view to assist outstanding sportspersons of yesteryears, who had brought glory to the country in sports, but are living in neglect and want. The scheme was reviewed in July 2009 to provide for lump sum ex gratia assistance to outstanding sportspersons of yesteryear's 70% of our population lives in villages. To popularize games and to tap hidden talent in rural areas, the Rural Sports Program was launched in 1970 to 71. The scheme has been revised. Grants to sports have been increased. Sports scholarships are given to talented boys and girls. Following years of encouragement, some rural sports like kabaddi, archery, and wrestling have made a foray into the international arena today and medal. Halls have been made in the ASEAN, the Commonwealth Games, and even in the Olympics. Sports and games being an effective means of ensuring general good health, measures should be taken to ensure people's active participation in games. The government should evolve a long-term national sports policy. Children should be informed about the advantages of playing games. They should be made to play games regularly. Training facilities for various games should be introduced. The existing training facilities should be upgraded and expanded. The selection of players for national and international games should be fair. For this, government has already introduced a scheme related to talent search and training. Under this scheme, assistance is provided to promising sportspersons for training and training competitions in India and abroad, and for purchase of equipment and availing of scientific support. Support staff such as coaches, sports scientists, doctors, masseurs, etc., are also encouraged as well as assisted for undergoing specialized training, for attending seminar/conferences and major international sports events, and for appearing in qualifying examinations. This scheme is implemented through Sports Authority of India, SI. The Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports implements various schemes as incentives to sportspersons to take up sports. Various awards like Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna Award, Arjuna Awards, Dhyanchand Award, Dronacharya Award, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad Trophy, Rashtriya Khel Protsahan Award, etc., are conferred to recognize spectacular and outstanding performances of the sportspersons. All these schemes are introduced to encourage and motivate sportspersons for higher achievements and to inspire the younger generation to take up sports as a career. It is a foregone conclusion that if maximal participation in sports and games is ensured, it will improve the overall health of the nation and its citizens. There is a recent example: how the Indian government treated its athletes. Top Indian female wrestlers, Olympic medalists, were protesting on the streets of New Delhi against the head of the country's wrestling federation, Brajbhushan, whom they accused of sexual harassment. The government was reluctant to take any action against him because he was a parliamentarian from Prime Minister Modi's BJP. The wrestlers even went to the sacred river Ganges to throw away their Olympic medals. Vocabulary: 1. Farthing. A thing of little value, a quarter of a penny in old British money. 2. Refrain. A statement of comment that is often repeated. 3. Reluctance. Disinclination. 4. Vicious cycle. Harmful cycle of cause and effect. 5. Instill. Implant gradually to cause to acquire. 6. Boost. Increase. 7. Metabolism. Chemical processes in plants or animals that change food, minerals, etc., into living matter and produce energy. 8. Calories. Units of the energy-producing value of food. 9. Brisk. Quick. 10. Diplomacy. The art and skill of dealing with people. 11. Specified. Stated. 12. Obese. Very fat. 13. Contracting. Catching or developing. 14. League. Groups of sports teams that compete over a period of time for championship. 15. Motivation. Stimulation. Accusations. Statements accusing a person of a fault, wrongdoing, or crime. 15. Infrastructure. The basic structures and facilities necessary for a country or an organization to function efficiently, for example, buildings, equipment, etc. 15. Maximal. Greatest possible. 3. Grammar page.